wesn.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Justice C. Prasad stresses service in the next CJ appointment. Over 3,700 pounds of waste removed in coastal cleanup. Opposition demands probe into Alexander gang leader claims. And internationally, Trump hails Charlie Kirk as martyr in Arizona memorial. Now for the details. Justice Frank C. Prasad says the choice of Trinidad and Tobago's next Chief Justice must be rooted in service, accountability, and public trust. Speaking after a church sermon in Marabella, C. Prasad reminded that Ivor Archie remains in office until his retirement takes effect. He urged that the eventual successor prioritize citizens' access to justice and transparency in the courts. He also suggested reopening courtrooms to the public, stressing accountability. C. Prasad said the appointment is for the president after consultation with the prime minister and opposition leader. Asked if he would accept the role, he replied that judges serve wherever required. More than 3,700 pounds of garbage were collected along the foreshore during Trinidad and Tobago's leg of the international coastal cleanup. 244 volunteers participated, gathering almost 1,000 pounds of plastics, over 100 pounds of glass, and more than 2,600 pounds of mixed waste. Planning and Environment Minister Kennedy Swarovski said the findings underscore the urgent need to overhaul waste management, including separate collection of plastics, organics, and other materials. The cleanup spanned 30 sites across the country and is part of the world's largest volunteer effort against marine pollution. Opposition Chief Whip Marvin Gonzalez is calling for an immediate investigation into claims that Homeland Security Minister Roger Alexander once held meetings with imprisoned gang leaders. The allegations come from attorneys for Acting Assistant Superintendent of Prisons Garth Guada, who is challenging his detention under state of emergency orders signed by Alexander. The lawyer argues the detention was biased, citing past disputes between the two men. Gonzalez says the matter raises serious national security concerns and must be addressed publicly. Alexander has not responded to the allegations. Internationally, tens of thousands filled the stadium in Arizona for a memorial to slain conservative activist Charlie Kirk. U.S. President Donald Trump led tributes, calling Kirk a martyr for American liberty. Trump also stirred controversy, saying he disagreed with Kirk's forgiving approach to political opponents, adding, "I hate my opponents." Kirk's wife, Erica, delivered an emotional speech announcing she would continue his work as head of Turning Point USA, while declaring forgiveness for the man accused of killing her husband. The event carried the tone of a political rally, with top officials, including Vice President J.D. Vance and Elon Musk, praising Kirk's legacy. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for watching.
WESN. Hello, hello, Trinidad and Tobago. My name is Mark Anthony Peter, and welcome to Breakthrough right here on WESN Content Capital. As per usual, on the Breakthrough table, I am joined by my co-host, Sean Michael Small. Hello, Sean. How are you?
Disappointed.
Why, Sean?
Because you are missing out on one of the key pieces of human cultural history.
Which is?
Do you really want me to say it?
No, please. Please don't, because I don't know what it is, and next thing everybody else knows except
No, we just
me,
talked
and
about
then
it. We just talked
and
about
then
it.
just because I don't know what it is doesn't mean anyway. It's
Yeah.
but
It's one of those things, you know. It's like you don't know this.
yeah,
You know.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm
Is it? No, it's not.
I'm actually a little.
They have teenagers that know who Backstreet Boys is from the 90s, right? So I mean,
Right.
you know what I mean? You know, culture now transcends time.
It does.
You
It
know?
does. Well,
Besides, how many music people know the sound of music?
a lot.
That was not produced in 2023. Let's you know.
But it's like a rite of passage to have to know it, you know.
To be fair, I never saw Sound of Music. I have never.
Now that is a sham. That is a sham and a crime against humanity. Yeah, shame.
No.
Okay. Anyway, but how are you doing this morning? This morning was a little bit rough for me.
Yeah, it was rough for me too. I had a breakfast bandit, you know.
Listen.
They do say we need to, guys, we spoke about this on Talking Point. We need to get our cameras. We need to light up all the areas, you know, and then I'll add a few more things. We need to get guard dogs, high extra tasers, you know, because I got visited by the breakfast bandit. Yeah.
Listen, before.
What,
just,
Mark? What,
just
what,
for
what,
clarity.
What are you trying to say?
I had to take medication, and then I was
Mark,
like, wait.
Are you admitting to being the breakfast bandit?
I
didn't say who it was.
I was trying to clear my name, and I took a focus. I was like, Sean, I need some of this because I just took medication.
No, he led with, I need some of this, right? Which, in Trini speak, could mean many things. It could mean, you know, well, to borrow a phrase from Kaiserat's channel, it could mean phantom tax. It could just be, you know, we's boys, you know. Yeah, you know those friends that just take from you and then...
It was an emergency situation.
What is good for the commissioner is good for my co-host. You lead with the explanation. You don't come after the fact.
That is true. I really did give the explanation after I already took the food.
Exactly.
out of his box.
Like, so here I am. My emotions were played with. On one hand, I'm watching my food because the chicken's on the top, so the chicken's going, right? He's not taking the tomato and cucumber, he's taking the chicken. He's taking the best part, eventually. So here I am thinking, oh no, my food. But then I'm like, yeah, I wonder if he'll buy me lunch after this. But I'm not that demanding. It wasn't that much food, although by all rights.
I apologize. Next time I will lead with the explanation.
Lead with the explanation?
Before stealing your food, I will lead with the explanation.
You lucky we didn't go into a fork fight.
That is that is very true. But anyway, we have,
so, you know.
I have learned my lesson. But anyway, listen, we have a lot in store for this show this morning. And before we get into our discussion, I actually have a very exciting announcement to make. All right, so get ready. On Sunday, November 23rd, One Voice is having its Christmas concert at the Little Carib Theatre. Sunday, 23rd of November. It's entitled A One Voice Christmas. And tickets are available. You can follow us on all our social media. You can send us an email to reserve your tickets. There's also a link in our Instagram bio to get those tickets reserved. So I'm really looking forward to this one. This is really a great concert that I'm looking forward to. So please, hope to see you all there. Tickets are $200. Yes, sure.
I'll try and get a seat in the corner so I don't distract you like last time. But it's a Christmas. Put up the flyer again. Put up the flyer, I would say.
Oh my God.
It looks so Christmassy, doesn't it? Is that the wardrobe for the concert?
No, it's not.
Yeah, just, you know.
No, okay, thank you. You could take down the flyer now.
Maybe like
thank you, very
you
much.
could get like a gold tree kind of in the background.
I'm tired
of the text.
I'm tired of dealing with Christmas trees right now. I am tired. All right, but no, it's gonna be a great Christmas. With this concert, we're really trying to give it our all this time, and also get a sense of each of us, not just
you
as...
You need to hire me for marketing because you just said, well, we've never really given it our all before.
No, that is not what I just said.
Because we're going to give it our all now.
Oh my God. What I mean is...
because someone is going to have that thought. Someone is going to have that thought behind the camera. So I'm going to mention it now. So the reality is, no, it's not that they never gave their all before, but they're going to be pushing new ground, new boundaries in the performing arts in TNT to bring you things that One Voice has never brought you before.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the clarity.
And to be fair, if you do follow the careers of the people at One Voice, they actually do that. Because so far, I've come to basically one Voice concert, and one concert I was heavily involved by members of One Voice. And I did see things that impressed me that I not just like to see, you don't really see it often in live performances in TNT. So it is worth the watch. And the ticket price.
Thank you for the...
See, that's how you do it.
Thank you for the clarity, Sean. Well, speaking of clarity, let's get into our discussion of today. So last week we would have spoken about people bringing their old wounds into new community spaces, right? And in the arts especially, there are a lot of community spaces across the industry, right? Be it your community choirs, your community orchestras, ensembles, your various institutions and schools, and whatever they may be, right? And a lot of, and I wanted to sort of continue this discussion, but we taking the discussion to a moment of clarity, and it was from a blog that I read when it talks about a lot of community spaces kind of lack clarity, right? And in it means the blog went on to say care is not always talking about the virtue of care. Care is not always about comfort. Right? Sometimes it looks like being clear about expectations, boundaries, and limits. When clarity is missing, people fill in the blanks on their own. That's where confusion, assumptions, and resentment grow. Right? There have been a few situations, and I've seen it happen. I myself have been in those experiences where when there's no sort of clarity or information given, you know, in that space, it becomes a little bit. You leave people with up to their own assumptions about the situation and that speculation, and that can cause, and speculation without the proper information can cause a lot of can be negative and harmful in the space, and not just in community spaces, but in everyday spaces, in workspaces, in political spaces as well. When people are not given the sort of clarity, people are meant to speculate, and then that creates fear and anxiety and all of these things. So that's why it's important to be as clear as possible. At the end of our discussion last week, we spoke about having the hard conversations. Right, and the more at the beginning of having the hard conversations, and as being as honest as possible, depending on how you view those things, depending on what your upbringing is, it could be difficult, it could be very hard, it could be very challenging. But the more you have it, the easier it becomes over time. It's an uncomfortable space to be in, but it's a necessary space for growth.
But that's one of the things I think you said something where clarity is not necessarily comfort, and people, I think, sometimes equate too much their own personal comfort with what is right. Just because you're uncomfortable doesn't make it wrong. It all depends on why you're uncomfortable, right? And sometimes I wonder if people might not properly identify, are you uncomfortable because you have a legitimate reason why you think it's wrong, or is this a very emotional, instinctive reaction to something that doesn't conform with your personal views, and because it doesn't conform with your personal views, you don't like it. Now, I know that one theory is that people who are not socialized properly, right, so this is the extreme, they are too used, if they're not accustomed, if they don't have tools to deal with when things don't go their way, they will actually get, you know, anxiety when things don't go their way. So because of that, they view as, no, you're the problem. I'm not the problem because you're making me anxious, and my anxiety is caused by you. You're the problem, because they don't realize you literally don't, and you don't necessarily have to be a spoiled child and a brat and an entitled person to get this far, but it is somewhat of extreme. And because artistic communities are so dependent on social interaction and relationships, right? People who are not self-aware enough, because there's no manual to life on parenting and raising a child and developing oneself. And there's self-help books, but right? it slips through tracks. Particularly, I would suspect that for the younger generations, like I'll have my own host of psychological problems. You will, people younger than you will. So this might be, I see this more with the older generation. That doesn't mean that it won't happen with the younger ones. But I think even if it doesn't, that just means we have other issues from all the social media stuff and just the whole change in dynamics.
Well, yeah, I believe the issues are the same, but the circumstances may be different,
right?
Depending on across the generations.
I mean, to be fair, internet is, content on demand.
Yes,
so,
it is. So yeah. that in itself has its own sort of anxiety-inducing sort of things there. But when you grow up when you're used to dysfunctional spaces, when you're used to a dysfunctional sort of upbringing where you're not taught on how to have the tough conversations, you're not taught of that honesty is actually good. It's not about, because that's the thing with people pleasing and making sure that you are liked and making sure that you like everybody, right? It blurs the line of honesty, because then you're sacrificing being liked and pleasing other people for a level of honesty.
How you're trying to avoid feeling bad, so you're willing to accept certain negative emotions because you just don't understand that they are.
Because that's how you were taught to survive, and nobody told you that that's not good, right? And it only raises ugly head when it becomes too late, when things catch up to you, right? And it becomes even more and more difficult when you are in certain spaces where that sort of survival tactic, that sort of survival mode does not work and cannot work, right? It absolutely cannot work. I've had my fair share of lessons, and I'm still learning them. I myself, I'm a little bit, I'll admit it, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with it. It's an uncomfortable situation to be in when you're expressing yourself emotionally and how you feel, because at the end of it, because in your mind, in my mind, I don't want to hurt people's feelings. And I'd rather just keep the peace and keep the harmony, not realizing that it's actually counterproductive, because it's actually just allowing things to sort of fester and grow more and more, because honesty is not welcome into the space.
How about the flip side? When someone the anxiety that they get is when they see a train wreck about to happen because everyone is too passive. So they rather cut to the chase, because the passivity and the passive-aggressive actions that come out of that just stresses them out. So then now, to some extent, if that goes to the extreme, that could be one reason why you have some artists. It also could be because those that are so comfortable with just throwing their opinions and emotions out there and letting chips fall where they may. And then you get the stereotypical, I wouldn't just limit it or say diva behavior, but that kind of outspoken artist that doesn't have a filter, whatever the filter is, it's the reverse of you. It's not about, I don't want to, make people feel bad. It is, and they're loud, and they're blunt, and they're at times insensitive, and at times their emotions are just way out there. And I guess in a way, it's almost like, all right, so the artist is able to express himself fully without any reservation. But then how does that now impact his social skills and his ability to actually interact with people? Because
not everybody is like that. But so if you're surrounded by people that are a little bit more passive and stuff like that, that sort of I don't want to say abrasive, that sort of very present sort of behavior can just lead people inward more and more.
Because generally speaking, yes, being honest is the correct thing to do. But let's just say we're at an event where it's not convenient to be honest, right? Say you're at a celebration, but then a family member passed away. It's like, it's a judgment call. Do you mention that in the middle of the celebration or after the celebration?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's not always because that's the thing about someone who is blunt. They're like, well, I'm just being honest. But at some point, people who are not as blunt and as insensitive will realize you are touching on things where your honesty is counterproductive. Yeah. Right? And I guess part of it is motivation. Sometimes you're not being honest because you want to be honest. Sometimes you're that blind. But sometimes I'm just being honest is code for, well, I want to put you down because I have my own issues and I feel better doing it this way.
Well, yes. So there's that. And I mean, There is a sort. I remember I was watching a sort of an interview, and the person said, you know, I'm blunt, not blunt to the point of harsh, but blunt to the point of I feel like I'm just delivering information to you. And they were saying that, you know, the therapist said, you have a sense of information and you want to express it directly, and hurting people's feelings is not within your intentions. And the therapist simply said, you know it, and they will eventually know it. They just don't need to know it right now. You need to have some sort of time sensitivity to some sort of awareness to time and sensitivity and to context of what's happening around to say, well, you know, it's maybe this is information that people do need to know at some point, but yeah, you need to use some sort of better judgment and say maybe not right now. All right, and that's the thing. It could come off to people who are clear and direct, not brutally honest or brutally blunt. I'm not speaking about that, but I mean it could come off harsh to people who are a little bit more passive and try to take their time with certain things. Because as the blog went on to say, you know, clarity does not mean being harsh. It means saying what you mean and meaning what you say, so people are not left to wonder what's going on. So that's how that sort of battles that. Blunt. Exactly, it battles that sort of speculation. You know, we cannot assume that people know our intentions for a space if we don't name them.
It's a thing where you judge yourself by your intentions, you judge other people by their actions because you don't know what the intentions are. You assume, and that's just a common thing. And it goes back to what you said when you have last week. When you have bad experiences that has left you emotionally scarred or whatnot, you're going to judge future interactions with that as the template of all your assumptions. Everything is like that. I mean, it sounds extreme, and you could look to extreme examples of a case like child or animal abuse, right? Of how hard it is for the victims to open back up. But we can't just think, well, only of the extreme things. There are levels lower to that, where it's more in the realm of normal interaction, but it's still in that same direction, where, yeah, if the experiences are bad for someone, then they're going to just assume the worst out of people, as it goes on.
Yeah, because again, that's another survival tactic, right? Because I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be thrown under the bus again, right? So you sort of view everybody through a lens, and sometimes that lens is not always the best thing. And I mean, listen, at the end of the day, one of my great friends told me, where there is life and where there is human beings, there is going to be a level of there's going to be some sort of drama, but she means drama in the sense of not everything. Complexity, that's a much better word. There's going to be a certain level of complexity, and you have to deal with issues by issues with a certain level of complexity.
Because, I mean, we're focusing on clarity, but also in general, a lot more artists are introverts than one would think. Everyone think, oh, life of the party artist is like, no, quite a few are introverted, but they are creative, right? Social interaction is not always the easiest thing. And part of what that comes down to also is when it's difficult to interact, then you don't necessarily learn communication quite as well. And then you get difficulties understanding how to say it. Because I think for a lot of people, they're like, but I told them, but you think you're clear because you're clear to someone from your perspective.
Yeah.
Are you clear to everyone else with all of their different perspectives? And I do wonder if a lot of the social interaction baggage, some of it comes from the fact, at least for the ones that are more hesitant or reluctant to speak freely, speak openly, try to pursue clarity, it's because of something like introversion, right? With regards to their social skills and their habits and their norms. And I guess part of it too is now joining a community, you know, a child needs to play with other kids to learn social interaction. Introverted children will probably play less. So now when you want to be engaged in something that's not just you, because not everybody's going to be a singer-songwriter on their own, you have to learn quick. But I think the flip side is that the community also kind of needs to build up an understanding of when people are in that time of learning and not just assuming, Well, everyone is big man and woman here.
Well, yeah. So then,
because usually that's the thing. When we want to cut to the chase and have a serious conversation, everyone is big man.
But I would, but I would say actually, especially this is where I would go to the leadership, because it's a lot of times it's people in leadership positions that are trying to provide the most information and the most level of clarity. It matters. It's important to, at least from my experience, make sure that the collective space is a space where people can speak respectfully, but speak freely and express their own perspective and things like that. So what I would say is, the individual conversations are just as important as the collective conversations, right? That sort of grows trust. That sort of grows a certain healthy level of trust and relationship among all members, especially with leadership. And then, because then, once you're given the information in terms of clarity, you mentioned perspective. If you're addressing a group, then you could easily say, all right, this is the information that I have. Are we clear? Are people confused or anything? Or there's also a sort of not a tactic, a technique in therapy where they would, especially in couples and groups, therapists would usually say, what did you hear them say? Right? Or actually,
the game of telephone?
No, well, you're saying it in front of the person.
No,
right?
but it's the same principle.
It's the same principle. Like, I also have a friend, he would say, what did you hear me say? Or what sort of, just to make sure that we're on the same page. And I would probably respond, well, I heard you say X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And he'll be like, yes, that is what I said, X, Y, and Z. Or he'll be like, no, I said A, B, and C, right? So there's a lot of underlying things that support that interaction in terms of trust, in terms of honesty, in terms of what your individual relationship is like. I'm not saying be absolute BFFs with the person, but take an interest in them, take some level of care, especially when it doesn't, because sometimes it's used, some people use the individual interactions, especially when people are new to the space, etc., etc. They're like, oh my gosh, welcome, thank you so much. And there's a certain level of momentum, at least for the first few months, and then leadership just sort of goes back to their regular schedule as if everybody is on the same page. And then, for a new person, you could feel kind of used at some times, because you took an interest in me at the very beginning, but it doesn't continue, right? So it's just for the sake of the collective. No, in the collective there are also individuals, and there needs to be some level of interaction or some level of consistency throughout the interaction. Again, it doesn't mean that we have to be absolute. I don't need to be calling you all hours of the night and chatting you up or whatever. But it just means genuine care and genuine intention, so that when we are clear, the same information is given. And so this is what the blog went on to say. Clarity gives everyone the same information so people can engage without guessing. Clarity also gives people something to root back into. It reminds everyone of what the space is for and creates a practice of reflecting on whether you're still aligned with the intention.
Because that's the catch-22, right? Mm-hmm. People change.
Exactly.
I mean, even the people who were acting a certain way for years, even they might be forced to change. Mm-hmm. And to some extent, how does an organization adapt? It's not easy for a whole collective group of people to adapt to something.
Exactly. So it's sort of up to the culture and the leadership to just sort of make sure that transition is smooth. But also, to be clear with your intentions, especially if you're inviting somebody new into the space, to be clear with your intentions of what the group does, and also give like a time period. You could negotiate with people and say, this is what you could do, and after this time period, you can let me know.
I do think though that whether professional or amateur, not everybody is fully aware and organized and has a systemic collection of knowledge on what are we about. And what is that? Because you could kind of give the cliff notes, or you could even try to give the details that you remember at the time. But the reality, though, is whatever the experience is, it's a living experience. So it's going to change a lot, and it's dynamic. And at some point, I think it's more for leaders, again, even in professional business, to be careful not to sell a dream which never was going to happen just because of the nature of humans. It's not going to be so clean and always straightforward, right? It's not going to be predictable.
Yeah.
Right? Because then on top of that, there's always this concert hall had to cancel, the travel plans had to change, or some legal matter, or your principal, your female lead got sick. Like a lot of life happens.
Life happens.
Yeah.
Life happens. And I think it's always safe to assume that people are trying their best. Everybody is trying their best, and I think once everyone sort of extends that level of grace and compassion to each other, then it will sort of it will cut out the assumptions, and it will make room for clarity to happen, as opposed to assuming that people have bad intentions. We'll wrap up just now, but I was saying, I was telling one of my friends, like I'm trying no longer to live on Assumption Avenue, I live on Clarity Crescent, all right? And we need to be able to stay there, all right? We have we have a segment up for you after the break. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Claudette, radiographer at the radiology departments at the community hospital. We offer high-quality service with state-of-the-art equipment in X-ray, ultrasound, CT, and mammogram. Come, our friendly staff awaits you.
Give us a call at 235-5479.
The Community Hospital of Seventh-day Adventist,
where good private health care is affordable.
Low energy? Heart concerns? Migraines slowing you down? It's time to take control of your health. Join Wellness Unlocked, the series that brings expert advice and real solutions for a healthier you. In our latest episode, learn how Jameson CoQ10 can help support heart health, boost energy, and even reduce migraines. Get the science, the stories, and the steps to power up your health with CoQ10. Don't miss Wellness Unlocked. Watch now on WESN and start your wellness journey today.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I would ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services, yeah.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
In the studio now, you don't need to register nothing. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Welcome back to Trinidad and Tobago to Breakthrough. And for our spotlight segment, we have no stranger to the Breakthrough table. He actually was the first guest of season 2, and we're happy to have him here again. Please welcome to the Breakthrough table, singer, songwriter, calypsonian extraordinaire, the man, the myth, the legend. Chris Sons, Seraphim Joseph. Good morning, good morning.
Morning.
Plenty wait.
What an intro. I mean, listen, you never fail to deliver on a live performance, so, we might as well just get the eventual accolades rolling from now, right? And yeah, we can at least claim we said it first, right? We said it first.
Correct. So, last time you were here, we had a very good discussion on the topic of success and how we're defining success.
Right.
But today, you're actually here to sort of promote a show, a performance that you're having. So if you could tell us about that really quickly.
Okay, so I'm part of a performance that is, it's a series that's put on by Gillian Moore called Songshine. And what happens at Songshine is it's really an open mic that she's been running for a number of years, and they try to have one featured artist at the end of the open mic segment. So the open mic might run for about an hour, and then there's a featured artist. And I've been fortunate to be asked to be that featured artist this time around.
Okay.
And what I have decided to do, given the open mic space and the kind of energy that's in an open mic, is to present to the people gathered only original compositions, because I feel like that is almost like something sacred in an open mic space. It's a space where people get to share their most intimate things that they've been working on, and get a little opportunity to get some feedback from an audience as to this is what I'm working on, how you think it's going, kind of thing,
No, you mentioned, so yeah, that actually makes sense. If it's an open mic, then be open as best as you can. You're singing all originals.
Yes.
Right? And that's, at least for me, I haven't been to a lot of open mics where there's a full original set. People would usually do like about 5 covers and then do two of their own, but this is all originals, and that's exciting. Yeah. What is the composition process for you, like the songwriting process for you, like? Is there a process?
Have a weird location? Do you have a lucky pen? I think Ludacris says he writes all his raps in the car, right? Do you write lyrics in a special format? As far as process goes, when I get to the nitty-gritty of it, my process is very calypso oriented. So that if you think of calypso as a classical form of Caribbean music, then there are these classical rules that you follow, right? And so everything that happens before I actually sit down and start writing is up in the air. It's craziness. I might have heard something, I was like, that's interesting, and maybe I'll make a song about that at some point, or something could be bothering me, something that's happening in the space, and I feel like I want to comment on that. Sometimes I want to comment on it really just to make it clear in my own mind. Like for me to understand how I feel about this. And writing it down helps me do that. So before the songwriting starts, there's no process. It's absolute madness. It's whatever. Something happened and it's like, oh, that's nice.
Okay.
And the something happened could be even, there's a melody that's in my head.
Yeah.
Sometimes there is no melody, there are words. Sometimes, like I said before, it's not a melody or words, it's something that I want to comment on.
Right.
And so it could come from anywhere. But the writing itself, because I'm so enshrined in calypso-dom.
That's an interesting way of pushing it. Yes, quite accurate.
it usually, even if the song ends up sounding nothing like a calypso, to the average person might say, well, that's not a calypso. But I know that in the process of writing it, I had these parameters that I was working with.
Yeah.
And sometimes I always like to, it's not me, it's not an original thought in any way. But, you know, for an artist to break rules, sometimes it's important for them to know the rules.
Yes.
You know, so I might do something and then realize, yeah, I don't think I could, I need to bend this.
Yeah, a little bit.
I'll just bend it.
Yeah.
I could, why not?
Yeah. Because you could explain why.
I could say why.
You could say why. Because you know the rules.
Yeah.
You know the rules so that you could bend them a little bit. Now this event is an open mic. How important now I've been to a lot of open mic sessions. I've been behind the scenes on a lot of open mic sessions, series, that sort of thing, even before it became Cafe Blue, when it was Kaiso Blue on Woodford Street, even back then, and people started doing their thing, even Fiesta Plaza, Vitong used to have a lot of those sessions, and there was like an era of a lot of open mic sessions, a lot of sort of cover things happening across
I feel like Sunshine, though, has probably been one of the longest running. I think it predates all of that.
Okay.
This is the brainchild of Jillian Moore. People in the space would know who Jillian Moore is. She's recently taken on the Calypso persona Fire Tender. So you can look for her in that light as well. But she, at one point, was with Homefront, doing work with Homefront, with Ozzy Magic and those guys. I think she wrote one of their biggest hits, that give yourself a chance, let your spirit start to dance. Yourself. Yeah, that's Jillian Moore. So she's been in the space from 19 long, and and Sunshine is part of her work in terms of creating a space for people to come into an open mic and say, hey, there's more work.
Well, that sort of comes to my question, because I was going to ask, how important are these sessions? How important are these events for a lot of, I wouldn't even say not just upcoming artists, but for seasoned art, for all artists as well, be it, and for all professionals in the field, be it you're a performer, if you're a stage tech, if you're backstage, if you're a producer, all of those things. How important, and you being a veteran in this industry.
Look at me.
Look.
That's crazy.
Well, I mean, listen. But being that sort of a veteran in this industry, like, you could see the rewards and you see people and their growth. How important are these spaces in this industry?
I'm thinking now of stand-up comedy.
Yes.
I was just recently listening to Corey Shepherd podcast, and he had on Cindy Ann Bosson from Marval, who's out in the States working as a stand-up. And I've also heard, I've heard from her, but I've also heard from some of the huge stars, the people that everybody's looking at on Netflix and looking at in movies, and these guys are millionaires, and they sell out arenas like that.
that this space is probably one of the most important spaces for them as artists. And I think that extends to other art forms as well. You need a space where you can try things out, where it's safe to try things out. And not safe in the terms of everybody will say, oh, that was nice. But safe insofar as if it wasn't nice, it's not just you and 10,000 people and they just didn't take you on. These people came to listen, to hear, to figure out, and it's like, oh, that works. Or to say, you know, you're in a space where you have other artists also working things who can say, hey, you see that thing that you're doing there? Have you thought of if you did this instead?
It's almost like if the space is not, I'm not here to get the polished show with the certified hit, you know, that is a commercial success, maybe a critical success as well. I'm here to see the creative juices. It's almost like if you're watching the beginning of the great work, right? And it's partially behind the scenes in a way.
Of course. It's like an early introduction. Like, I keep remembering like just random stories. As a clan, I remember at one point, his very first like huge hit was Flambeau. And I was a Trinity boy at the time, Trinity College Mocha. And Ata Clan was one of our alums. So he came into the school around Carnival time because, you know, we have this Trinity boy with this huge song on the radio. And he's singing for us what that song originally sounded like. And we were like, oh my, that's crazy. Like, that is that would not work, sir. So it's a process.
All right. Because even for veterans, there's the famous story, Chris Rock, Kevin Hart, they do open mic, right? They use that to start working on material, they critique each other, they give each other notes, then Dave shows up randomly. And then when they hear his stuff, they bunch their notes, they crumple their notes, and they start from square one. But it's like they expose each other to their creative process. And for some artists, I guess, because Dave Chappelle is a good example, when he reached a point where he wasn't necessarily sure what he wanted from the entertainment industry, he would still find, I mean, at some point he was doing just random shows on the street. But he would go to those open mic sessions in clubs, you know, to work on stuff or to just be him. And I guess that was him, in a way, rediscovering himself to the next stage. And perhaps I want to ask, to what extent do veterans, I mean, it's one thing to be the feature, but an open mic session, how many take advantage of the fact that, hey, I could just come be me, right? And I could give them the first version that might not be so good for the song, but this is not, this is a different audience, right?
I want to say two things on that. And the first is that the Calypso tent had traditionally been that space.
Right.
Especially for people, obviously, in the Calypso space. The Calypso tent was not just a space to go and perform. It was a space where you could go and be trained so that the veterans in the tent, or the successful people in the tent, the people who are running the tent, they are looking at the show to advise you. Or they're not even letting you on stage until they like the song.
Right.
It's like, let me hear what you have. All right. It's something, you know, but we can't put that on stage. Fix this, fix this, fix this, fix this. Come back. You might come back. It's like, yeah, no, you still have some work to do. You might even get to the point where it's like, all right, it's good to go. And you still sit down watching the show. Because, yeah, the song good now, but I don't like how you're singing it. So that's what that space was. And in some ways, it was a rough space.
Yeah.
because you're in a professional space, people getting paid to sing, and you being told, yeah, you're in the tent, but we ain't paying you yet because you ain't good enough. Yeah. So that's rough. Yeah. But it was part of the process in the same way that an open mic now allows for a similar sort of polishing to happen. So that, yeah, the work doesn't have to be perfect yet. If it is great, then great. Mm-hmm. Now you know. You got there, you did it. You got that immediate feedback from an audience. It's not like playing it for your mommy in the kitchen. Exactly. Mommy, how you find this song? Right. And maybe mommy like it, maybe mommy don't like it, maybe mommy does lie because yes, she child, she love yes, oh God, it's nice, eh?
Well, also maybe mommy don't know.
Mommy had no idea.
Yeah, it sounds good to her.
It sounds good to me. You know? But that audience is right there. They're there. They don't even have to tell you they like it or they don't like it.
You'll know.
You know. Anybody's be on stage, you know. When this thing leaving you, something is coming back. Yeah. And whatever's coming back is an instant measurement of how the people feel about what you're doing.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, that absolutely makes sense. So that's the importance of these sort of spaces. And I would go on to say some people might even be like, well, some people may say, but Christian has been doing this thing for so long. Why is he at a open mic session? But it's exactly what you just explained. You know, you get to be in that sort of creative space where people are sharing ideas, where people are kind of getting to collaborate with each other and sort of engage with each other. And even we need people we need veterans in those spaces because the upcoming ones, the newer ones, are not, regardless of what age or stage they're at, they sort of need that sort of guidance to move forward.
It's so strange to hear you call me a veteran. Just last month, I did a show with, on the show is Lord Valentino, Trinidad Rio, Short Pants was the MC. Like, these are the people that I'm in this space and they watching me like a little child.
Yeah. They were veterans when you were a little child.
This man is watching me, he's like, well, you're a veteran. I'm like, really?
Well, yes, it's the thing with
it only takes one campaign to make the soldier a veteran. The older veteran, the younger veteran, you have the experience, you have the scars, you have the hard-fought lessons, right? You know, you've won your battles.
I guess it's the thing with the generations, because you will have your veterans. I mean, I would call them veterans. Like, I would be like, all caps veterans, right? And then, so there's a little bit of there's some different categories.
Levels. Levels to this thing.
There are levels to this thing, right? But no, it's great, and the fact that you're doing original compositions is great, and I'm hoping that you could probably give us one of those right now. Is it an original composition, kind of?
Sure. So,
yeah.
I'm
so excited.
This song actually, so I made a short list of songs that we're gonna perform, and then I found out on the weekend, on Saturday, I found out that our friend in the media had passed away, Sterling Henderson. And Sterling and Gillian are actually really very, very close friends. And so started thinking, okay, how can I forget, you know, I'm looking at my song list that I've chosen and it's thinking, what can I do within this to kind of honor Sterling, especially given his relationship to Gillian? And then I thought, oh, there's another song that's not on this list. Maybe I'll just add it. So let me see how it goes today, right?
All right.
This song is called Till Our Time. It's actually a song that was originally done following the passing of a great musician, Mr. Dave Marcelin, and Mr. Len Bugsy Sharp called me into a room because we were all working at UTT Napa at the time. And he just said, Christian, come, take out your phone, record this. And he just pounded on the piano and just, it's a random melody. He said, all right, write a song for Dave.
That's a process.
Yeah.
That's a process.
That's one way to do it.
That's one way to do it.
So the song is literally called For Dave.
Yes.
Till our time. See if Christian can play it. Bamba-de, bamba-do, di-di-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. We know the countdown starts from above. Before long you must depart this wretched earth. What we leave behind determines our worth. What can be said about a man is worth more than silver and gold. In truth, we all can understand that nothing gathered in this world determines our legacy. It's surely still to come. So makes life more meaningful. Of this I'm positive. When the sun refuses to shine anymore, when the curtain is drawn, post the final encore, when the trumpet has blast demands we return to mother, when the new moon turns red with blood, when the time has come, when our day is done, blessed are those for sure who meet you once more. If everyone live life like you, do what we were sent here to do till our time, till our time. The twinkling of an eye, a genuine smile, a final goodbye, well, final for a while, left us wanting more, true performer style. But when the tears are wiped away, and quietly we reflect, bringing to mind a brighter day, oftentimes we neglect. Good times aren't just memories, they're surely still to come. So fearlessly march on to Armageddon, when the skies roll back and the stars start to fall, when the mountains drop low and the valleys stand tall, when the Lamb approaches and judgment's at hand, blessed are we who live life by his plan. Break the seventh seal, see the truth revealed. Cherubim will roar, welcome home once more. If everyone live life like you, do what we were sent here to do till our time, till our time. When the sun refuses to shine anymore, when the curtain is drawn, post the final encore, When the trumpeters blast, demands we return to murder. When the new moon turns red with blood. When the time has come, when our day is done, blessed are those for sure who meet you once more. If everyone live life like you, do what we were sent here to do till our time, till our time, our time.
Thank you very much, Chris Sun, for that wonderful. That is everything. Thank you so much.
Those who know why I say that.
Thank you so much for Trinidad and Tobago. It's been wonderful. 25th of September is when the open mic is happening.
That's this Thursday, the day after the holiday.
That's this Thursday at Cafe Blue. Be sure to get there. All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
$100.
Thank you so much for joining us for Breakthrough. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Justice C. Prasad stresses service in the next CJ appointment. Over 3,700 pounds of waste removed in coastal cleanup. Opposition demands probe into Alexander